Hello, this is Ms. DB, and in this video we're going to review how to do some of the problems in the Chapter 3 Section 1 worksheet. And before watching this video and doing this assignment, you should definitely read pages 146 to 148. This is on lines and angles, and the book pages have more information and a good overview about what this section is all about. So our objectives are to identify parallel, perpendicular, and skew lines, and to identify the angles formed by two lines and a transversal. And we'll talk about what that means. So here's some definitions of parallel lines, perpendicular lines, skew lines, and parallel planes. Parallel planes are planes that do not intersect. Like in the room that I'm in right now, the floor and the ceiling will never intersect. They are parallel planes. And then you can read through the other ones. Skew lines, you might not have talked about that before, but they're lines that they're not parallel. They're also not perpendicular. They'll never intersect. For example, in the room that I'm in right now, the edge of the ceiling where it touches the wall, that's one line, and that is a skew line to a line that is along the floor because they're in different planes. They will never intersect. They're not parallel to each other, so those are skew lines. So you need to identify from here the different kinds of lines. Parallel planes have to be parallel to each other. So like, again, the ceiling and the floor. So you might look at, when you look at this object, there's only two planes that are parallel to each other. It's the two triangles. Because the bottom, this rectangle ADFC, that is not parallel to any other side. So that can't be one of the planes. So we name segments. It says to name a pair of parallel segments. You need to name them with two letters. Like if you decide to do segment parallel, let's see, BE and CF, this arrow means that they're parallel to each other. You need to write that as segment BE and CF, or you can pick other ones, or you can actually write the you can actually write the word segment here. If you are drawing, if you printed this out and you're using a pen to do this, then you can do a better job of labeling your segments by putting the little line above it. BE would be with the little segment line above there. And then you could label CF with the little segment above it. So depending on which method you're using to fill this out. Skew segments are any two that are not parallel. You'll name them the same way, either by typing the two capital letters that are the endpoints of the segment or writing them with the line segment above it. It's okay if you don't write the word segment in front of each of these. And then perpendicular segments have to be those that are at right angles to each other. The little square here means that these are at right angles. So EF is perpendicular to CF, but you can also assume that these are all at right angles as well, even though they don't have the angle mark in each corner. And the reason is because these two lines are parallel to each other, so therefore if this is a right angle, the other ones are going to be as well. And then for planes, you have to either write the word triangle, ABC, and the other triangle that would be parallel to it, or you can just write the capital letters, but you would name a plane by 3 points. So not just by two of the letters, not like a segment. All right, moving on. The next section we have, this is very important and we'll continue this for a couple lessons, but when we have lines, like here we have line R and line S, and it's cut by another line, it results in lots of angles. See all these little angles? 8 angles were resulted where that transversal cut through those other two lines. So what you're going to be doing is, first of all, learn these definition words. What are corresponding angles, alternate interior, alternate exterior, and same side interior, and then naming them from some problems below. So remember that when you name an angle, you can either name it by 3 points on the angle, including the vertex in the middle, or sometimes they put numbers in the interior of the angle, and that's what they did in here. So when you are asked to name a transversal, that's a line. That would be line Z here. The parallel lines would be these two right here that are marked with the arrows. And then the angles will be marked with, use the less than sign to make an angle mark, like this. And then these can each be named with numbers because they are labeled that way in your paper. So when you are looking at corresponding angles, they are on the same side of the transversal and either both above or both below the two lines. So in this picture up here, there's lots of different corresponding angles, but they give the example of 1 and 5. They're on the same side of the transversal T, and they're both above. One's above line R, and 5 is above line S. So those are corresponding angles, meaning they're in the same position. But also corresponding angles would be 3 and 7, because those are both on the left side of the transversal and below line R and below line S. Those are corresponding as well. So there's going to be more than one answer for many of these. There's also corresponding angles for 2 and 6. Those are corresponding angles. They're in the same position. And finally, let's see, I don't have any more colors. Here we go. 4 and 8 are corresponding angles. So we could have chosen any of those for corresponding angles. Now for the next part, I need the eraser here, we're going to talk about alternate interior angles. Alternate means on either side of the transversal. One's on the left side, one's on the right side. Interior means between the pair of lines. So alternate interior would be angle 5 and angle 4. Or, as they used for an example, angle 3 and angle 6. So there's only 2 pairs of alternate interior angles. Alternate exterior angles, as you might expect, will be outside of the pair of lines. So in this blue shaded region are the exterior. Alternate means on either side of the transversal again. So one will be on the left, one will be on the right. So angle 1 and 8 are alternate interior angles, or angle 2 and 7 are also alternate interior angles. And then finally we talk about same side interior, which is exactly what it sounds like. The same side of the transversal and in between the two lines, same side and interior region. So 3 and 5 are same side interior, and 4 and 6 are same side interior. So your job for the worksheet is to find those examples on here. So what's corresponding with angle 1? It would be angle 3. So I could say angle 1 and angle 3 are corresponding. You just have to pick one example, but there's 3 other corresponding pairs that you could have picked. Alternate interior angles, there's 2 pairs you can pick. Alternate exterior, there's 2 pairs you can pick, and same side interior, there's 2 pairs you can pick. Just make sure you pick the right ones. Okay, this one's a little bit trickier because you have to figure out what are they using for the transversal first. They can either be using the tension wire, the utility pole for the transversal, and I think those are the only 2 options here. So we have an electrical line and we have a telephone line, and they're being cut by 2 different lines, and we have to figure out what are these pairs of angles, and if so, what was the transversal that cut them. So in number 11, we're asked to look at angle 5 and angle 6. So here's angle 5 and here's angle 6. Well, those angles were both formed when the utility pole cut through the electrical line and the telephone line. Well, hopefully it didn't cut through it, but you know what I mean. It's going through those lines, or it's attached to those lines. So the transversal is the utility pole because it formed those angles. So you need to name the transversal and say how those angles are related to each other. So the electrical line is here and the telephone line is here. Those are my lines that were cut by the utility pole. So both 5 and 6 are in between the 2 lines, and they're both on the right side of the transversal. So these are same side interior. That's how they're related to each other. Let's look at one more example. So I'm going to erase my marks now because the utility pole is not the only transversal that will be used. Let's look at 1 and 2, number 13. Here's angle 1. Here's angle 2. So this time it looks like these two lines were my original lines, the telephone line and the utility pole, and they are being cut by the telephone line. So in this one, the transversal is the telephone line. So now we need to think about what is the relationship between angle 1 and angle 2. Well, they're both below the transversal. The telephone line is the transversal. They're both under that. And one of them is above the tension wire and the other one is above the utility pole. They're both above and below. So they're in the same place. These are corresponding angles. So do you still have to answer number 12 and number 14? I did 11 and 13. In this section, you're just going to read the description and choose the right answer for 15 and 16. In 17, there's this quilt pattern here, and it says, which is the true statement about the angles formed by the transversal line HK? Let's trace that line. Here's HK, kind of wavy. And HM, where's HM? Here's HM. And JL. And then so we're going to look at these angles. So let's see if we can find, let's go through A. LSK, angle LSK would be this angle, and angle PHQ. PHQ would be this angle. So it says that they're corresponding angles. Do they look like corresponding angles? Well, corresponding angles are in the same position and on the same side of the transversal. So if we're talking about this line and this line as being our original lines, and then it's cut by that red transversal, this looks like it makes sense because they're both to the left of the transversal and below the blue lines. Let's erase these angle marks and look and see, and I'm going to erase these blue lines too. Let's look at another situation. Let's look at the B. JSQ, that's this line, or angle, sorry, and JQH. JQH. Well, that's, I guess, this angle. But that's not going to be correct because JQH is not even an angle formed by these lines. It's an, I guess, JQH. I guess it's this angle right here, but that is not an angle that was formed by the line. So that can't be the right one. All right, let's erase those and see what the C says. All right, in C we have LSK, angle LSK again. We had that angle before, and angle QSJ. That's these two angles. Are they same side interior? No, they're vertical angles, so that's not going to work. They're not even, they didn't even use this line MK. Or what is that, MH. So that, I need the eraser here. All right, let's look at D, and otherwise, so far A is the best choice. D says PHQ, angle PHQ, that's this one, and angle RLS. I lost L, LS, these two. So as you can probably guess, that these are not same side interior because I had to like make angle R out of, it was not formed by these lines that were intersecting. So definitely A is the best example or the best answer on this one. All right, so that's it for this video. We will continue to work with these words, so learn them well because it's important, and we will continue to work with them. And in the next couple lessons, we will work with theorems that have to do with these types of angles. Thanks a lot, and let me know if you have any questions.